Ready? Okay, hey guys, welcome to Star. Tonight's mission is the Games About Software. Woo! Yeah, I have a couple announcements before we get started. Yeah, give it up. Okay, so first announcement, tomorrow is going to be Roar Day. If you don't know what Roar Day is, basically RIT has this event set up so that after we get money donated to us, RIT will match any donations that we get. So we can make a lot of extra money to hopefully put into other club events and fun stuff that we can do. So as a promotion, for every $50 that we get donated, we're going to be buying another member of the bridge crew, starting from the top and working our way down. So yeah, maybe donate a lot, but just below the threshold for me.
Yeah. Give us your money and you can buy him in the face.
And me. And hopefully Logan as well. Okay. So this Friday we're going to be seeing Venom. We're going to be meeting in the SAU lobby at 5:30 if you want to come. It should be a good time. We went to see Predator not last week, but the week before. It was a great social event. We really enjoyed it. But if you are interested in the event and you have access to cars, any volunteer drivers would be very helpful for us. So if you'd like to, please send a message over to us on our Slack channel. Okay, the day after, on October 6th, is Nerdocalypse. Ooh, skull with glasses. Yes, so Nerdocalypse is basically this big event where all the nerdy clubs at RIT, including Anime Club, Fantasy Club, Star, EGS, all kinds of other stuff.
What about RWAG?
RWAG as well. Yeah, there we go. That's all of them. Essentially get together and we kind of show off what each club brings to the table. We would be ecstatic to have you guys come and support us. We're going to be running games of Artemis there. If you don't know what Artemis is, it's kind of like this battleship bridge crew simulator thing. So you and a team of your friends could possibly all pretend to be members of like an Enterprise ship or possibly like the ship from Galaga. Galaga? Yeah.
What? Did you say Galaga or Galaga? Galaga was the arcade game.
I always get them mixed up.
Galactica? Well, yeah.
Galactica. Yeah, Battleship, that one.
Galaxian.
Yes. So yeah, if you'd also like to volunteer for this event, again, just send a message to us over on our general channel on Slack. Okay. If you'd like to become a member, because you enjoy this club so much, it is $6 for one semester, or if you'd like to save $2 because you feel super confident about your loyalty to us, you could give us $10 for the whole year. Awesome. If you'd like to do that, talk to John over there. John is currently going to be raising his hand and doing a little dance. That's John. Nice. YouTube watchers, just trust it was nice. Okay. Finally, we kind of have a cool announcement that's coming up. The library is talking about possibly adding a sci-fi wing in the immediate future, which is really exciting. We don't have a whole lot of news about it, but we know that it's still kind of up in the air, and the best way for you to make it a reality is just spread the word. So, tell your friends, tell your professors, tell your pets, kind of speak about it in a hushed tone over your phones so that even the NSA agents can hear. Yeah, just generally show your support for that. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Hey Hammer, I have a question.
What's your question?
All this standing around here is looking for slides. You made me thirsty. Where could I possibly get a drink?
Well, that's a great question, Logan. There's several wonderful flavors of soda over here in this star speckled refrigerator. We have Sprite. We have Coke, we have Pepsi, and we have one single lonely can of Coke Zero Cherry in there from last year, I believe.
Wow, and where does the money go to?
All the money actually goes to the ALS Association. Just like it's fun. Yes, that's right. You can get soda for $1 a pop. No pun intended. Again, go talk to John if you'd like to do that. And all the money is going to go to the ALS Foundation. And I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, sweet.
All right, I'll give Mr. Runners.
A moment to set this up.
Yeah, I think the angle is messed up right now. I think that's good. Wait, so is it gonna, we're gonna see the speaker notes on it?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay, so that's where, yeah.
So hi,
Hey.
I'm Michael Cooper,
I'm Nicholas Cross.
and these are some of the games made by Belt Software.
It's basically gonna be 2 hours of gushing over these. Oh, if you have any, yes?
Wait, how many games?
I'm old enough to remember.
Also, if you want to chip in with anything, feel free to. This isn't like a total lecture. Just share your Valve schema connections, your connections to Valve that are share your experiences.
So feel free to pitch in if you have anything you want to say. But for those who don't know, Valve is a game developer, but also a publisher, a digital distributor, and now a virtual reality company. And they were one of the most influential companies in the game industry. And even today, they're one of the more influential. So it's important to understand. So if you love video games, it's important to understand the impact that they have. There we go. So some of the history of Valve. Valve was started by 2 former Microsoft employees in 1996. I need to ask, how many people here are older than Valve?
One guy's raising his hand off camera.
Whoa, wait.
Well, okay.
You're older than Valve, Cooper.
I was reading the slide. Yeah.
So older than 96.
What?
What month were they founded? I was born in February.
You know, I don't remember actually.
There are 2 computers here. We can look it up. Let's not touch that one, actually.
So what's important to remember that in late 1995, the year I was born, unfortunately, Doom was installed on more computers than Windows 95. Actually, that's a claim I've heard a lot of places. I was not able to find corroborating evidence, but it's a saying that I hear frequently. And this has led to increased interest in PC games from places like Microsoft. So the idea that 2 people who were working at Microsoft then cashing in their stock options in order to make their own company, wanted to make a game company, well, that's why. It was at a time where PC gaming was starting to become really popular. And their first game was Half-Life. So here's the trailer for the first Half-Life, and you're gonna see that it is very, very 90s. It's a bit violent, but it's so lo-fi and so old that I don't think it's gonna be that potent.
It's so 90s it hurts. In a good way.
This is the best quality I could find.
Was this supposed to be plugged into a speaker?
Fortunately, the speaker doesn't work.
I can't even tell what volume that is. The indoors or outdoors?
I can assure you guys this is all revolutionary for the time. This is 20 years old, so.
They only showed like one shot of the tentacles, which tells me that it wasn't quite done when this
Yeah.
died.
I don't know when the trailer was released.
Let's get the hell out of here.
This part is pretty close to the base game, though.
Didn't they was this before or after they started rebuilding the entire game?
I guess it's a little before.
Okay, I'm gonna wait here.
I assure you the voice acting does get better.
I'm not bringing them in. That's what the difference. The world finds out what they were doing here, Gordon. Please, just don't make me come with you.
Look, this was revolutionary. We tried finding this before.
Really, after all, yes?
Wait, what was that?
I always find it interesting here is that it's a bit of a pacing thing here. We have NPCs who don't directly attack the player and in fact will help you out. That was new for the time. And we have monsters here that sort of live in the world before they see you. Once they see you, they'll approach you, but they're doing stuff before you see too. It's not like in Doom where monsters are just standing around waiting for you.
Speaking of timing, like they were pulled into the event right when you entered. Like that wasn't something that was just happening at the time. This was cinematic.
Yeah.
Why do they all have to wear those ridiculous ties?
So they can all share the same texture.
Yeah.
This is like 1997 or 1998 or something.
I don't
We
think,
don't have a lot of texture memory.
I don't think Black Mesa's healthcare package covered extra textures.
Also, so when Half-Life 2 comes out and they introduce characters with names, they don't need to get too specific about which guy is in a security uniform.
Well, they had
or
names in this one.
which guy in a lab coat was Dr. Wagner.
Oh, yeah, that probably saved on some programming sometimes.
All right, so Half-Life's development all Half-Life's development is fraught. All the games developed in Half-Life, it was fraught developments. But Half-Life was meant to be released in 1997, when I guess I'd be 3 or 2. But in September, but that didn't happen. You see, they had a lot of great ideas that they had in the game, but they weren't congealing, they weren't fitting well together. So they essentially started over, which is crazy, but Valve has always been going its own way and acting very much as an independent company. So Valve says they need more time for something, they take more time, they don't force a deadline.
You know how sometimes if you are like writing a sentence or paragraph or whatever, and it's like, this sucks, I need to just start over. They did that with an entire video game in the 90s. Like this was weird. Take my word for it.
So part of it was that they need to analyze what made Half-Life fun. So they put in all the great ideas they had and tried to create a single level that would reflect all of their ideas to see, can we make it fun using all of this? And they could. So they were trying to figure out, well, what made this one level fun while the whole game itself was shaky. And they realized that there were basically 3 ways that Half-Life was a fun game. One was what they refer to as experiential density, when a lot of things keep happening at once, quickly. So if you go down one hallway, something interesting happens, you check the rooms, another interesting thing happens, you check another room, and then there's an NPC there who you can talk to, and then you go into another room and something completely different happens. That's when Half-Life is the most fun. Second, they want to make sure that the game level acknowledges the player, or what they call player acknowledgements. So they created a system where when you shoot a gun and it hits a wall, there would be something left on a wall, a small texture to reflect a bullet hole. And though this is pretty common today, in fact, I can't think of any game that lacks what's called decals for when you shoot stuff. Half-Life was one of the first-person shooters to implement it. It's that old that sets some of the standards that we're so used to today.
Also, number 3, player self-blame. If you die in Half-Life, it's your fault. It's not some unfair trick by the game. It feels fair, and it gives you an idea of what to expect in the future. So if a head crab leaps onto your head, and then you die, you go, okay, so those things leap onto my head and make me die. So if I stay away from them, or even better yet, like kill them and keep them away, then then I won't die to them. as this kind of reinforcement thing. This comes in handy later in some of their later games.
Another trick they use for this is to make sure that a new enemy will always attack and kill an allied NPC before they attack the player. So when the player sees, oh, what's this new monster? What does it do? They'll say, oh, I see. It will attack me from close range. So I can kill that scientist. Yeah, a lot of scientists die in the first Half-Life.
That was the thing.
All right. Another way that they tried to improve the development process was to establish the Cabal system. Essentially, they would separate into groups that would include developers, designers, basically people of every discipline, and they would try to work out a level or some feature together using all their skills. And this is sort of a reflection of what will go later on when Valve would adopt a flat team structure, where essentially no one is directly above anyone else, and designers, developers, and artists are all considered sort of being at the same level.
This is also part of their corporate structure now. They're an unusual company. Another reason, they claim to have basically no bosses. Like it's basically Gabe Newell is CEO, and then everyone else is just like they're kind of on the same level there, and they can choose which projects to work on. We're gonna go for that later or not? Because
not really, actually.
Because that's basically that. Although there's more weird things involving Valve and economic structure in the future
that we will actually cover
400 slides later.
All right, so the important thing to understand is that I don't want to just tell you what Half-Life is and what it's about, what goes on in the story, because I want you to understand why it influenced game design for a while, why it's important, why this was a bedrock game that helped improve gaming in general. And that's basically how it works. So tell me what I'm describing. Oh, it's a game with a first-person perspective in a secret research facility, attacked from aliens from another dimension, and only one man can stop them. What game am I describing?
Where'd you get that sound effect?
I don't know. There's no sound effects.
No, around here you
Yeah, pipes. I don't know. So what game am I describing?
Y'all heard that, right?
Well, I think.
It's not
Well,
the
here
answer to the
I'm
game.
not describing Half-Life. I'm describing Doom.
Wah, 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 wah.
But it also describes Half-Life. But Half-Life is different from Doom in many different ways. Like in many ways, where Doom came before Half-Life, Half-Life sort of iterated on some of the ideas, and that was that Half-Life focused more on the storytelling aspects, more on immersion, and had different styles of pacing. Not better, I'd say, but different types of pacing.
It was better though.
Well, like
Okay, that's subjective, whatever.
that's subjective, but.
I mean, sometimes Half-Life 1 feels like a horror game almost. Like there's jump scares, there's dark corners, and there's stuff where you kind of don't want to go near it because you're like low on health or something. That stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's a tone game.
Mm-hmm. So the storytelling style is pretty classic for first-person shooters. We have an unbroken first-person perspective, a silent protagonist, meaning a protagonist that never speaks. It's surprising how many conversations take place in this game, where it's just one scientist talking to another scientist who doesn't speak and is probably in the corner jumping up and down or something. There are friendly NPCs that you can interact with and talk to help you out against enemy NPCs. The environment helps tell the story, and at the end it feels like you were on a journey. You started from point A to point B and you lived every step of it.
Almost like there was storytelling going on.
Yeah. So an important aspect is that the game actually starts before the store. This is actually a screenshot from a fan remake from 20 years later.
Is this from Black Mesa?
Yeah, it's from Black Mesa.
I thought Black Mesa. Never mind.
And this is different because most games at the time would skip over the normal world before things go crazy. In Half-Life, they want to make sure that you understand that when things go crazy, there's actually a difference. There's contrast between the way things were and the way things are now. And in the first level, there aren't any combat at all. You can go talk to you can talk to NPCs, and the NPCs will talk back to you and imply that there's some backstory. You can interact in the world, like there's a place where you can find a casserole inside a microwave, and if you keep pressing the microwave, it will blow up.
I was just about to mention that.
Yeah.
You beat me to it.
You can find your own locker and see what Gordon Freeman would keep in his locker.
Like, this isn't lore through a text block or anything before the game. I don't even know if this is in the manual, but certainly not this in depth. It's right there in the environment. It's environmental storytelling.
And like I said, it's not like Half-Life is necessarily the best example you could find in all of history, but it was one of the things that helped influence people to move in that direction. Though I should be remiss to say, there was another game that was released at around the same time, System Shock 2, that also did a lot of similar stuff. And while you're playing, you could also catch a glimpse of something that you might not supposed to see. You might not, yeah. We'll get back to that later. And then the apocalypse happens. So after they establish a baseline, only then do they start the apocalypse. And the story does what it needs to. It draws the player in. It makes you feel like that you are a part of the world, that you are here for Black Mesa, that you are an active participant, that you caused the apocalypse accidentally, not just Gordon Freeman. So Gordon Freeman is essentially, well, to talk about Gordon Freeman, he's a theoretical physicist, MIT graduate, PhD recipient, wrote his thesis on whatever that is.
Observation of Einstein, Polodowski-Rosen entanglement on superquantum structures by induction through nonlinear transuranic crystal of extremely long wavelength, ELW pulse from mode locked source array, which I think,
AKA, I love fan wikis. And he works for the government secret research facility, Black Mesa.
that's why he's going there.
And he's, for some reason, fantastic with guns. There's no real explanation. Someone just hands him a gun, and he's great with it.
Well, don't some government employees need gun training just normally?
Yeah, but there's no reason to justify him being better than Marines.
He's really smart. You have to use strategy in the game. I think the motto for the game was like run, think, shoot, live.
We'll actually get to that.
Oh, we're going in depth.
And he's only 27. Guys, what are you guys doing with your life?
I'm 18.
But the thing is, Gordon Freeman is not, you shouldn't really care about any of those things. Gordon Freeman are these arms that you see occasionally. Because Gordon Freeman is there so the voice actors have someone to talk to. He doesn't emote, he doesn't speak, he doesn't do anything that the player doesn't do themselves. The player is basically just supposed to wear him while they're in the game and just say, oh, hey, I'm Gordon Freeman, and just feel like they're just being addressed by Gordon Freeman. They're assuming an identity. They're not playing a character so much. They're playing themselves, but they've been given another name so the NPCs can talk to them.
And even when Gordon Freeman gets hurt in the game, he doesn't go like, ugh! He goes, you just hear the suit sound, like the suit, and then the suit registers damage. It's like,
as such, it is the player's job to grunt in pain.
This isn't like Team Fortress Classic, which we also get to later, where every time you jump, you're like, so then when everyone's getting out of spawn, then you're like,
Also improving the immersion is that it's all a continuous world. Like, you're gonna have to just like ignore that there's a loading screen every 5 minutes, but the loading screen is like pause and then resume exactly the spot you were. So this is an example. I'm not gonna show the whole thing, of course, but these are all the levels stitched together, and as you can see, it's continuous. Except there is no point where it fades to black and it assumes that you covered a good amount of distance in black. Whatever it or there's one point where it fades to black, but that's when Gordon Freeman's knocked unconscious. So it's supposed to be you yourself who are fading to black. And there's also teleportation, but you get the idea.
It almost makes architectural sense.
And lastly comes the pacing. The tagline for the game was run, think, shoot, live. And the idea was that you're never going to be doing any one of these things for too long, or just one of these things. So Valve games in general live and die on pacing. And by pacing, I essentially mean what activity you're doing for how long, and then what comes after it. So essentially how things are sequenced. And in Half-Life, there are several different gameplay styles. combat, puzzle solving, platforming, unfortunately, and story. If you go back to Half-Life, you're going to have to accept they're going to be doing some first-person platforming.
In 3D, as opposed to first-person platforming.
Yeah. So the game cycles through these styles quickly. We, of course, start with a story beat, but then we end up with sort of a puzzle-solving aspect, and then we transition into combat, then platforming, and then it just keeps picking and choosing, sometimes combine these two, sometimes different doing sub-styles of each style. And what's clever here is that it all feels organic. It never feels like this is the puzzle room, or this is the combat room, or we're now entering the story stage. It's just natural that the point where you're trying to solve a puzzle and the point where you enter combat is the points that are, because you're just trying to survive. It's a continuous journey. So if you come across a locked door, of course you're going to have to figure out a way around it. If you come across an enemy, that enemy was probably looking for you, so of course you're going to have to fight them. And this pacing also prevents fatigue. If you were to read up on the design of these games, you hear about talking about wanting to prevent combat fatigue. And that is when you are in combat for too long, you get tired from being in combat, and you want to have a pace, essentially. So Valve always changes the pace and makes sure that you never are in combat for too long, or you're never not in combat for too long. Nothing overstays its welcome, and everything feels organic. They even have stuff where sometimes you'll be fighting human Marines, sometimes you'll be fighting these aliens.
Speaking of pacing,
Yeah.
want to do the next slide?
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about Half-Life story now. Who here cares about spoilers? Spoilers for a 20-year-old game.
20-year-old, yeah. The game's been around 20 years because it was in 98.
Yeah. All right, so
let me go.
Yeah, you
okay. So Black Mesa, this place you work at, it's just a normal government facility. Nothing going on. Then suddenly there's this crystal, and you laser it, and you're in the room where you laser it, and then it lasers it, and it opens a portal to an alien planet called Zen, but it's spelled with an X. Getting it? Well, no, I'm not getting it. It's spelled with an X, but it's fine.
and you never told me?
What? I didn't.
Okay, apparently
I didn't see this slide.
All right.
So the aliens from Zen invade, but then you're like, okay, so aliens are invading, but I have a safety suit on, so maybe I'm good. Maybe I can get out of here. So then you like go up to the surface because you're in an underground lair and you need to go back up. But it's like the government shows up and these Marines show up and they are trying to kill you and also the aliens, but also you and the scientists who work there. That's weird. So then you go to this thing called Lambda Core. I didn't know if that was what it's called. Where you go to a teleporter to Zen with an X, and it's a planet, and you go there, and basically you want to go there and defeat the leader of the aliens, which is this alien with the big head. I think, yeah, that one, not the
Neolin.
What?
Neolin.
Oh, okay.
All right, so why this whole thing is happening, there's something else going on, sort of in the corner of your eye. So there's this man called the G-Man, and he's always someplace that you can't reach right away, but he's always watching you, and even if you figure out a way to get to where he was, he's never there. No one seems to reference him. The Marines don't reference him. The aliens don't seem to attack him or even know that he's there. And the only one who seems to know that he's there is you. And all he does is seem to watch you.
And then he kind of walks away before you can get to him, and he's also like behind a window or something, so you can't get to him. He's my role model in life. When I grow up, I want to be a powerful person with a suitcase who doesn't talk to people, but I just watch them.
So we've always wondered what was in the suitcase, and apparently it's like just like a document of some physics scribbles, and you can actually look inside the suitcase if you cheat, and it's not that special. Kind of anticlimactic there. At the end, though, after you defeat the Neolin, he tells you, hey, I want to hire you.
But he says it like this. I want to hire you.
Yeah. But he says, well, and if you don't want to work with me, that is completely okay. I'll just simply teleport you into a battle that you cannot possibly win. So you can decide to die or accept the offer, and Half-Life 2 assumes you took the offer. But it's interesting that it gives you a decision.
Dude, what if Half-Life 3 is actually just a sequel to Half-Life 1 instead, where you don't take the decision? Dude, wait! That wouldn't break anything because the continuity. Okay.
All right, so
Guys, we figured it out.
between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, there's a period where Valve is still very active because Valve's made the Half-Life worked on a game engine called the Gold Source. A game engine is sort of the software that powers a development of a video game, and Gold Source was itself a modification of its engine for Quake. And because they released modding tools, it means that anyone could make new loads for Half-Life or even make their wholly new games using the same tools. One of these games was Team Fortress Classic. It was originally a mod for Quake, but the developers were hired by Valve so that they could promote modules. They would say, hey, you should go make mods for us, Valve community, because look what you can do. You can make a game like Team Fortress Classic. We'll get more into Team Fortress when we talk about Team Fortress 2 later.
The guy on the cover of the TF Classic box looks really old if you look at him. Like his neck is really wrinkly, I don't know. I don't even think it's an image compression thing, because I noticed that when I found like the HD cover.
All right, next comes the first iteration of Counter-Strike. Who here has played Counter-Strike? Who here has played Counter-Strike 1.6? So Counter-Strike is a game known for being an esport, meaning that people play the game competitively for money while being watched by a crowd of people like a normal sport.
We don't want to esport is, I think.
I couldn't know for sure.
We can't be too careful with this one. This one's going in depth.
All right, so Valve hired the creators of the mod. It started out as a free modification to make it a standalone product. And this is part of a tendency in Valve to hire community members as employees. Next came the greatest Valve game ever, Ricochet.
Ricochet was my favorite game when I was a kid. Every night I would pray to Ricochet.
Wait, you've actually played Ricochet?
Wait, I don't know how to spell Ricochet. I couldn't do the meme where you pray one letter at a time because I actually couldn't spell it.
All right, so someone is still playing Ricochet, but it's considered like a game that Valve made that no one seems to know about, nor have any reason to know about.
Wasn't this like a tech demo or something?
Maybe. I had to pay money for it.
It looks like an arcade game. Like
it's supposed to be this Tron-esque game where you're throwing energy discs at people to try to decapitate them or knock them off the platform.
Wait, did this have a plot? I forget.
I don't think so.
Did they have like tie-in comics or anything that were?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't think of doing more research on this one.
Good. That's good.
But anyway, I'm sure we can all agree that this is the best one of all.
So after this masterpiece, everything just went downhill.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Another mod released at the time was Day of Defeats. It's a multiplayer Allied versus Axis game, first-person shooter. Each team tries to complete some objective while being the enemy team. I don't really have too much to say about it. Did you play Day of Defeats?
No.
Who here has played Day of Defeats?
Well, that counts.
It's very forgettable. Yeah.
Although it does, 2003, that does sound like it was earlier to the FPS World War II scene than a lot of franchises that were known.
To be honest, I might have confused that date with the Source remake they made later.
What? Well, in that case, it'd be older then, so it'd be
All right.
older.
So in between Half-Life and Half-Life 2, they also hired Gearbox Software, a new company at the time. Later, they went on to make the Borderlands games, to make 2 expansion packs for them. And they told side stories to expand the gameplay. I actually haven't played these.
I looked at some pictures of these once. They usually have physics names because Valve is obsessed with this. Their company is called Valve. They run a thing called Steam. They had a college student thing called Pipeline. Their games are called Half-Life, Half-Life Opposing Force, Half-Life Blue Shift, which is a light thing. There was one for the Dreamcast called Half-Life Decay, where it was like a co-op game, and they were both like female versions of Freeman or something. You can look this up.
I know. The logo is also a lambda.
Yeah.
Albeit the reason they chose a lambda is that it looks like a man holding a crowbar if you squint.
Oh my god!
You never realized that?
Like next up, it's gonna be like Half-Life AP Physics or something. Like.
All right. Yeah.
No, it's gonna be Half-Life Full Life Consequences.
Half-Life Full Life Consequences.
All right.
Once upon a time.
This is a true story. One of the physics teachers in my high school was named Freeman.
John
Yeah.
Freeman?
Oh,
Zach?
you say teaching specifically in the subset of things to do with like the ridiculous number of references in Portal, like the point where the unreleased thing that was one week or two before they scrapped it was Mstop, because Aperture and all the things surrounding it aren't enough references to light and photography.
Oh, wow. All right, so next up is a glorious game called Half-Life 2, which is the second game of the Half-Life series, except for the 7 we just mentioned.
All right, this is probably one of the most important games to me because it's the game that convinced me to try to become a game developer. Like when I was young, when I was like 12 years old, there was this camp called Cyber Camps, where they were teaching Half-Life 2 level design, how to use Valve's tools to make Half-Life 2 levels. And that I fell in love with that, and that's why I'm here. So this one, I'm not gonna say this is the best game ever because I don't like making declarations like that, but this was one of the most important games to my development. Here's a trailer, and this is back before Valve learned how to make good trailers. I don't know what this is. And sorry for the sound.
Their logo sound is the edgiest logo sound ever. Like it's an actual song.
The facial animations are still really good though.
Remember back when physics was... No, it's still good physics. What the heck? At least it let you interact with a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. Gordon Freeman dies in the trailer. I assure you, the trailers get better from here on out.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, we're going to start with explaining how does Half-Life 2 work. It was released in 2004. Okay, no, everyone here was born before 2004, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it was made in their new source engine. It was new for the time. It was revolutionary for the time. And it had many advances on the original Half-Life. For one, we have characters with unique faces, better facial expressions, and characterization and personality.
And we have whole scenes where they say stuff to each other. Even if you try to get in the way to be trolling, you can't really kill them, actually. So you get these whole scenes where they're just talking to each other, and it's not a cutscene. It's just happening in the world. It took the thing from Half-Life, and it's amped up more.
It's a credit to the writers that they managed to make conversations where one of the participants never speaks and is probably in the corner jumping up and down, and make it seem like a natural, well-written conversation. Like, how do you write a conversation that sounds good and one person never speaks, and no one mentions that they never speak?
Because everyone was so busy with the physics system. They were on tables, flipping things over because they could do that finally in a game. Like that wasn't something you could often do before, and now they're doing it, but also there's a story you got to pay attention to. So they had to finally balance it.
So they really improved the environmental storytelling. In fact, I'd say that Half-Life 2 is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. And environmental storytelling, for those who don't know, is when the environment helps tell the world. And when the environment helps tell the world, that means that NPCs in the world don't have to explain it to you. Rather than saying, oh, hey, an apocalypse has happened, it could show, oh, hey, there's a lava roll in the ground, I bet an apocalypse happened.
So
take this, for example.
this is interesting. So you don't have to be told that this is a dystopian city. There's a few clues to it. First, no utopia has one guy's face on a screen everywhere. That's not something you see in a well-run area of any size. Also, there's this kind of barricade thing with these weird like glass panel things that are kind of like water. So you can tell it's kind of alien technology. Also, there's this big imposing building, which is also never a good sign. Wasn't that like inspired partly by the pyramid thing in North Korea? I'm getting those vibes from it. Let's see, everything's in disrepair. Even the trees are kind of dying. It's hard to see here, but there's like propaganda posters and graffiti everywhere. You can tell it's a bad place, and no one has to just say, Gordon Freeman, this is a bad place. It's supposed to feel like kind of like 1984, but now it's alien overlords and human overlords, and it's a bad place. And it makes you get riled up to do something.
Also, I love the symbolism here. That obelisk there is clearly man-made, but it's being dwarfed by the clearly alien-made Citadel tower there. Hey, yeah. And this is actually the camera. I love the composition of this shot, and it's amazing because there's no point where it steals the camera from you. So this shot comes about naturally because this is actually where you exit from a door. So you exit from a door into a place where you perfectly are aligned to make a beautiful shot that includes these two contrasting elements.
Like you can't help but see this view when coming out of the train station door.
But there's also some other great examples here. So this is the coastline. But you see there's a bit of a problem with this coastline. Anyone can see the problem here?
No boats, no people, not even sand. Wait a minute, there's no sand.
No, there's sand.
Oh.
The sand is being overtaken by some grass, meaning that we're probably losing some short to foliage propagation, but there's sand there. But there's another important detail. Does anyone here see the important detail?
Congratulations.
The important detail is that this is a pier, and it's nowhere near the shore.
Hey, yeah, wait a minute, what was with that?
So the official story is that as the Earth's resources are being drained, so is the sea level.
So the aliens are just taking salt water? What?
No, they're just taking water.
So they're just taking everything, including our souls, our dignity, I guess our salt water to the point where the coastline has receded quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It's a bad place to be in. These are subtle details. They put a lot of work into this. This game took like 5 years to make or something.
Later on the coast, I couldn't find a good picture of it. There are actually ships that are marooned on the shore, and canals that are dry because the water isn't flooding out of them. Rivers that have run dry as well. And yeah, the Earth is not a good place at the moment. All right, so there's also several immersive elements. There's now a physics system. Did you raise your hand?
Oh, I was going to say, are we treating things from the data that were cut as canon?
No. It sounds dated. I feel like it would be dangerous for me to say yes.
Yeah, but there's clearly a heavy implication about that one thing I mentioned.
The which thing?
The draining of Earth's resources.
I was thinking of that one of the betas that leaked, and so they said, well, you played our leaked beta, so we're scrapping that, had the arcade.
You mean the ship?
Not the thing where they steal TVs or something?
No, I'm talking about the thing where arcade is in the context of the universe, but like where kids are playing the game and they're actually controlling the maps.
I don't remember seeing that.
Actually, I don't know.
Oh, that's another piece of environmental storytelling. There is no children in Half-Life 2. And there's no children in Half-Life 2 for a reason.
Because the aliens turned off everyone's reproduction. Just all of it, they turned it off.
So they're basically children of men. If you've seen that movie, where no more children can be born in the world.
And they point this out by having like this creepy ass playground near the beginning in the the dystopian plaza area. There's a playground where there's no children. It's clearly in disrepair, and there's just like cinder blocks and shit lying around, which also lets you play with their physics system. They did this thing where like pretty much every design decision solved at least 2 problems or did at least 2 things at once. So everything gets depth and detailed.
Another important immersive factor is that they increase the ecological systems of the game. So the Earth not just losing its resources that become home of alien invasive species from another dimension, including those things there called antlions. And you see the whole sort of life cycle of these creatures, see how they affect the world around them, and see how they actually interact together. You can have the zombies from the first game attack the antlions from this game. At the same time, the combat are attacking, and at the same time you're attacking.
It's required AI systems to do. I mean, just game AI or whatever.
So here are more of the aliens that are here, including one of my favorites, the Barnacle. The Barnacle attaches itself to the ceiling and drops a long tongue down to the floor. Whenever a creature gets touched by it, it uses its tongue to grab it and eat it.
It's the player's fault for dying again, because it's like you had the warning, you saw a little vertical white line. Don't walk into that.
And here's a classic case of physics interaction.
Oh, yes. The best part. Best part in gaming history.
He said, pick up the can. All right, so what this guy does, he actually throws the can at the guy, but he messes up the AI slightly because the can rebounds off the guy's face into the trash can. So the AI both attacks you and then thanks you for picking up the trash.
What? No, I thought you just ran. I thought in that clip he just ran out of range, and then he was like, "Well, I guess I was out of range."
No, it's low definition, but I caught it when I was looking it up to the side.
That's
So yeah, that entire sequence is basically there to see how many players put the can in the trash can and how many players take the can and throw it at the guy.
Dude, what if they collected that data like in the Steam user survey? And
They did do achievements.
I mean,
Dude!
from a game design perspective, it's there to teach you how to pick items up before you're in a situation where you need to.
Where it matters. Yeah.
Actually, it's there to make sure that you understand how to pick items up. You already go through a puzzle where you need to pick items up.
Doesn't feel like not let you pass it unless you do something with the can.
Yeah, you have to either let him beat you up after you throw it at him, or you throw it in the trash can.
And doesn't have
That's showing the violence inherent to the system.
And isn't there a thing in the board that also says like press E to pick up, and then when he says put it in the trash, it says press E to throw.
Yeah.
This scene is just really good. We've been spending like 3 minutes on it now.
All right, so there's also now vehicles in the game. And what I really like about Half-Life 2's vehicles is not that they control well, they don't, but you feel like you are still yourself and you just entered into a vehicle. You're not controlling the vehicle, you're controlling Gordon Freeman controlling a vehicle. Which could be a little awkward at times, but it also feels more immersive in my opinion.
I first played Half-Life 2 on a Mac laptop, and that was a mistake in the vehicle section. Nope.
All right. We also have physics puzzles now because we have a physics engine now, and when you introduce a physics engine, you have to do something with the physics. Like maybe a gun that allows you to pick up physics objects and punt them at people. I don't know.
I mean, we could do that, or we could have players do the same seesaw puzzle in every single Half-Life expansion.
Oh, talking about seesaw puzzles.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
So apparently, wasn't there like 6 simple machines in machine and mechanical engineering?
The lever, the wheel, lambda, the crowbar.
Valve has only heard of the lever, so here you put cinder blocks at the edge of this wooden board, so the other wooden board would lift up, so you could get on top there. And that is the foundation of almost every puzzle in the game. Sorry, I just spoiled the whole game.
Oh, we should have put a spoiler alert here. We did one for the first game.
And there's one hidden under the pipe.
You gotta balance things. I think there's one part we have to hunt batteries.
All right,
and I
so-
spent, like 3 hours.
Who here cares if I talk about if we talk about Half-Life 2 story?
We already spoiled part of this.
No one? I actually knew Half-Life 2 story before playing it the first time, and I still loved it, so I don't think it's that big a deal. So, are you gonna? So, here's the start of it.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply that I've been sleeping, but the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until. Well, let's just say around the end. The right man and the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up, Billy Ashes.
So yeah, that's the start of it.
It gives me shivers still. You managed my
All right, and let me remind you, this is 2004, and they felt confident enough in their animation and character model to start it with an extreme close-up on his eye. Yeah,
That model blew my mind in 2004 in their defense.
yeah. All right, so the creatures of Zen, with an X, were actually refugees of a war against a multi-dimensional empire called the Combine. They had conquered the Earth during the 7-hour war,
That's how long.
as you find out in this piece of environmental storytelling.
That's how OP they are relative to humans. They beat us in 7 hours, and then they just use towers to shut off our reproduction, and then they have these 90-day force screens. It's quite impressive, actually.
So
It's
Dr.
atmosphere.
Dr. Wallace Breen, who allegedly was the leader of Black Mesa, you'll remember him back from Half-Life, don't you?
No one was named in that game, so you won't actually.
Yeah.
Although there is Barney the security guard who still owes you a beer. You owe him a beer.
Yeah, but all the security guards are named Barney.
So they all owe you a beer, or do you owe them? Wait.
Wasn't Barney canonically the one you play as in, Blue Ship?
It's either
Yeah, one of the canonical Barneys is that guy.
Yeah, so you get to play as a guardian that time, and then in Opposing Force you play as one of the Marines in that thing, and then Decay you play as like 2 other people, or it's a cooperative.
Yeah, very weird policy. Only Barney's allowed to apply. Yeah. So Dr. Wallace Breen is the figurehead, and he has to keep the humans docile. But some humans don't want to be docile. So decades after Half-Life, decades after the Combine invasion, the G-Man brings back Gordon Freeman. And the Resistance find him. Coincidentally, however, it's implied that's not as big a coincidence as you are led to believe. However, the Combine discover their secret base, Black Mesa East. I guess they just optimistically called it Black Mesa East. And capture the leader of the Resistance, Eli Dennis, who was also in the first Half-Life game. He was one of those scientists that weren't named.
Oh yeah.
Gordon makes his way to Nova Prospect where he's held. But unfortunately, he's betrayed and has to escape using a teleporter there. But the teleporter is slow, and he arrives back at the rebel base a week later. And the Resistance has already started a full-scale street war. So this is the part where everything just boils over and it just becomes a straight-up war. And all the citizens are involved and everyone's shooting everyone. And Gordon has to make his way to the Citadel to where he will confront Dr. Breen. I love how different the Citadel looks from everywhere else.
You're inside a dark metal spire, and everything's dark and metal. No coastings to break things up.
When you're up there at the top of the Citadel, Dr. Breen tries to escape into the Combine home dimension through a teleporter. But Gordon Freeman stops the teleporter, and which sets the Citadel up to explode, which it does. The end.
and then it freeze frames and kind of matrix bullet time, and then the Gmod, the G-Man shows up and he says stuff, and then he walks away.
Yeah, the G-Man stops time mid-explosion and said, "Wow, good job, Mr. Freeman. Anyway, put you back to stasis now. Good luck, human race, I guess." And that's the end of the game. It just stops suddenly there. I actually think it's a great ending, but it's great because it's so deliberately sudden. After this game was released, they released expansion packs or sequels of sorts called the Half-Life 2 episodes.
This was kind of a neat distribution idea they had because the other games took so long to make. They're like, wait a minute, we could have content out more often if we make littler games and put them out more often because littler games take less time to make. The problem is that they also procrastinated on those.
I wouldn't say procrastinated.
Oh, sorry, polished.
I wouldn't necessarily say that either, but the problem is that the first one went up and it was fairly fast. The second one went up longer than I expected. And the third one hasn't been released yet. It's been over 10 years.
They just didn't do it.
That's sort of the problem with the episodic model is that if you don't create everything, if you create a 3-part story and all the parts are supposed to be played together, and you don't have enough resources to finish the third part, then you sort of leave the player hanging.
Oh, and spoiler warning for these old games in the same franchise we've been talking about. Second episode where it ends on a cliffhanger where the Eli dies. Or wait, no, or doesn't die, or something happens, or Alex.
All right, so Eli dies.
Right.
What I want to say was one of the most important contributions that the Half-Life 2 episodes made was to the AI of Alex Vance, who's the daughter of the leader of the Resistance. Essentially, instead of just having friendly NPCs, you essentially have partners, sort of an AI-controlled partner, someone who genuinely helps in combat and is with you for almost the whole game and it has the AI smart enough and abilities good enough as to feel like almost an equal to the player. And this was actually what inspired BioShock Infinite when they were trying to implement Elizabeth. We were playing. Cool. So yeah, this was cited as a direct inspiration for that. So which brings us to Team Fortress 2.
Let me handle this one.
Let's play the trailer first.
Team Fortress 2 is best.
All right, this one's the first one. What's the second one? I need to warn you, this one has some cartoon violence.
More cartoon and more violence. What does that mean?
So, what's interesting here is that it was actually going against the trend to have a cartoony art style, illustrative art style. These days, with games like Overwatch, Team Fortress 2 art style may not seem quite as special, but at the time, it was considered. It was expected that Valve would go for a hyper-realistic style. But of course, if you go with hyper-realistic, that means you can get away with less in terms of gameplay.
You could have shown me the meet the team videos. Oh wait, because these have gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the game's aged fairly well, about as well as a multiplayer game that old usually can age, at least graphically.
So this is probably my most played game.
Same. There's a guy in my dorm who has 18,000 hours in the game.
Not that much, but
I have 1,200 hours and I can't even aim.
the only game I could think of that might have played more was Halo 3.
Still like that.
Most played class there.
Dave Newell's favorite class is the Spy. I made engine because I don't have to aim so much. This is my #1 favorite game, and then my #2 fave is Joking Over Literature Club. Not even joking, 100% real.
So I actually played this back during the beta. Back when there was friendly fire for the flamethrower.
no! Oh no!
And then Valve came to and said that was a glitch.
It wasn't a feature, it was a bug.
Michael, did you start the gunstart?
Yeah, this was free beta actually, so a lot of the games has changed. So there's sci-fi elements to this game, right? Like it's Wile E. Coyote at the logic, but
I don't remember actual sticks of dynamites being in the game.
it wasn't in the beta either.
Just tossing a stick light that would like rotate and stuff. That could have been an interesting physics time, because like, what if it landed with the fuse near something flammable?
So because this is an unrealistic game, when the soldier does a rocket jump, it's not a glitch or even some advanced weird thing. Everyone's expected to be able to do it.
Oh, and listen. The soundtrack is awesome. The soundtrack is so jazzy and so cool. Let me talk about the rest of it because I played this a lot. Okay, so Team Fortress 2 is a multiplayer game where two sides. Sorry, no problem. Okay, so
Keep talking.
Okay, so TF2 is a first-person multiplayer game. It was the class-based shooter that took like Overwatch and also Fortnite to even try to kill, and it still is being played by losers like me to this day. So they're fighting the oldest battle of all over like land or something. I don't know. There's
No, red versus blue.
Oh. There's lore about it in this massive series of really well done digital comics that tell you the lore of TF2. But like you don't need it; they're just killing each other.
Yeah.
So you can choose from 9 classes who are so different. Like this ain't your average everyday, like RPG classes where it's like, oh, this is like a mage, but with 2 extra hats or something. Although hats come into play. They're all really different. Demo Man shoots grenades, which explode. He can shoot these other bombs that he can blow up by right-clicking, but he can do it later and without looking at them. He's liable to hurt himself, never goes into battle sober.
So there's one weapon in the game, which is like an old World War II style German grenade. And the description is a sober man would throw the grenade, as opposed to just trying to bash people with it. Yeah. Next is the engineer.
I saw practical guns. I'm gonna imitate all of them. This
All
is
right.
my jam.
So the engineer, he builds stuff. He builds turrets. He builds teleporters.
He hits
for the
everything with the wrench to make it work, and he does that to repair them and to build them into, like, he can just fix problems by hitting them with the wrench. He can even hit other players with the wrench. The wrench is
But it doesn't fix them. It actually hurts them.
it hurts them a lot, actually. Melee weapons they do a lot of damage in TF2 sometimes.
So he's not really someone you'd want leading the charge, but he's good for area denial. And if he could keep the enemy distracted for him to set up a turret at a key point, it could be quite devastating, even offensively.
Especially if it's a mini sentry that he sets up in an area that's a real pain in the ass to get to, but that everyone has to pass through.
Yeah, I'd say a really aggressive engineer.
Yes.
Especially when they added the ability for him to move things without destroying them.
Yeah.
Playing offensive engineer like really got better.
Like the optimal offensive engineer would be able to sneak behind enemy lines completely, like that. Oh no. That's in a few slides. We're getting to that. I'm not even kidding. I made that slide.
Yeah. So there's also that heavy. He carries a big gun.
It's good for team.
But because he carries a big gun, he's a slow-moving target, but he has a high amount of health.
And when he revs up his gun, he moves even slower. And if you crouch while moving the gun, you don't really move.
He also has I believe, a degree in Russian literature.
Was that in the lore?
Yeah, like something you know is that all these classes, even the ones that don't seem like they ought to be particularly smart, are all actually really smart people.
Anyone can edit the TF2 wiki, right? Like we're not.
I know.
Sure about this.
But I checked the citations.
Okay.
And he talks about his literature degree in another game.
The trivia in the TF2 wiki for the items is hilarious, by the way. Especially rejected
The
trivia.
T42 wiki is one of the best fan wikis.
It's amazing.
All right, so here we have the medic. heals and support teammates, but doesn't do this, like, does not heal nor support the enemy.
That is not medicine.
And you need to shoot him first if you see him on the battlefield. You see, he has a medical gun that shoots pure medicine into people and heals them quickly.
He shoots health at you, kind of. It's like he creates this kind of weird thing. It's like a Ghostbusters laser thing, and it's a chain. So like when he's close to you, then it kind of and it turns on. But if you get too far away, then it turns off. So he uses that to heal you, and then he could overheal, where he heals you beyond 100% health, and you can get even more health that way. And then he builds up this thing called Uber Charge, which you can like right-click to turn on, and it makes you and it makes the person he's healing and himself, it makes them both invincible for a while, which they can use to go in being invincible sometimes and use it to charge into things like sentry guns by the engineer. Those things are usually hard to destroy, but if you're like already invincible, even if it's for 10 seconds or how long is it? 8?
I don't remember. It depends on the weapon.
So if it's 8 seconds, whatever, that's still enough time to destroy the sentry if you're not taking any damage from it.
All right. Next is the pyro. They like to burn things. They're good in close quarters combat. Because if he gets close to you, he can light you on fire, and if you get lit on fire, even if you escape, you're still on fire. And
for a little while, I mean, it goes out sometimes eventually, but like it's bad and it keeps knocking down your health a bit, so it's like, okay, it's not good.
So a lot of people die not being next to the pyro, but simply after they get away, they just die of fire.
Nice.
I had a friend who made pyro. Oh, weird.
Okay.
Pyro or your friend?
Well, there's a good pyro meme coming up in a few slides.
All right.
Scout.
He's a scout. He's weak to bullets, like particularly so. He's weaker to bullets than I am. Like,
doesn't he have like less than 100 health?
Yeah.
No, it's 125. What? Yeah, they do.
And his job is to be a great nuisance for everyone and probably be the hardest to kill person in the game.
Oh, freaking blur here.
So again, his thing is move really, really fast so the enemy has trouble hitting him.
But Michael, if I get up by one bullet, I die. How can you be weaker than that?
Well, it's simple.
I thought you had 2 bullets.
It's a game that's a cartoon. You can get hit a few times sometimes, unless you're in like
All right. Here's the sniper. He's good at killing people from a distance. He can kill anyone with a headshot, except for people made invulnerable. But even fully healed and fully overhealed people will die to a fully charged headshot. But he's terrible at checking behind his back. So
because he has to look really in the tube, and unless you have good ears and preferably headphones, you're not going to hear someone unlook in front of you. Where it's like.
There's a special weapon in the game where you sacrifice your ability, you sacrifice your secondary weapon, but in return, you cannot be backstabbed.
Yeah. Well, you get backstabbed once, but it's a complicated thing. Every weapon.
Yeah, but it lets you know very, very loudly.
Every custom weapon in TF2 is weird and is complicated to explain. And if we explained all of them, this presentation, like I would not do well on the test tomorrow because I would not sleep tonight.
All right, so here's the soldier. The soldier, he has a bazooka that launches rockets, and he's fairly tough. So he's sort of like a go-to, the bulwark of the army, the backbone.
The yeast of thoughts and minds? Like what? What? I'm at it with you maggots. I forgot the rest of the line. Yeah!
Paid is coming.
Oh my God!
We're not at that slide yet.
All right, and lastly is the spy.
Congratulations, you're fun.
I make wonderful agent. Oh. Always like the soldier voice crossing the spy voice.
So he's a quadruple agent. He can disguise as anyone. He can turn invisible. He can sabotage engineer buildings. He can backstab people for instant kills. But he's fragile in upfront combat.
That's a backstab.
He's also
Yeah.
my father. Yes.
So this is my favorite class.
The most awkward sense.
And it's my favorite class because I love manipulating people. I love just to be everyone's bane of their existence.
Oh, acting
I
to
think
this
you're
side.
brave.
You can disguise as other classes, but you can't gain speed by doing it. So if you disguise as a heavy, you'll move slower for realism. But if you disguise as scout, you don't just get to be as fast as a scout. So don't go as scout. I usually go as like sniper or pyro because if you go with medic, you don't get a big speed downturn or anything, but you're expected to be healing everyone. But with pyro and sniper, you don't have to be constantly firing people to not get suspicious.
My favorite thing is disguising as an enemy spy, disguised as an enemy, as a member of my own team.
Yes.
At that point, people just, I think seeing a spy reminds them that spies exist, so maybe they think to spy check, just then like, oh yeah, spies exist in this game. Yeah, maybe I could spy check. Oh, that was a spy.
There's also, for some reason, the option to disguise yourself as members of your own team, including yourself. So if for some reason you decide the best thing to do is disguise yourself as yourself, I can't think of any situation where that would be the wise thing to do.
Look, 1,200 hours, multiple custom servers, and I still haven't found one use for that, but maybe I wasn't thinking hard enough.
If you're really, really drunk and playing iTower.
If you're doing that, there is no strategy. The only way to win is not to play.
All right,
Yeah,
so
Hightower is a map that is terrible, never play it.
So one reason that Team Fortress 2 works is that you can find a class that's suited for you. Another reason TF2 works is because of its art style. So the art style was inspired by 20th century illustration.
Like Norman Rockwell and probably other artists.
Yeah, I had a list,
Oh, like
but
James
I
Bond.
forgot to add the list to my notes. So,
Have you ever seen like old James Bond posters? It's like that.
so as you can see, something that really quirks with that is that all the classes have silhouettes that you can easily recognize. You can just see even from these silhouettes who these people are almost immediately and what weapon they have.
That's good cartoon and character design. So you can tell like, this is the big guy. I can't aim, and so on. Well, that's for me, obviously good engines can actually aim.
So when you see a character in a distance, you can read him immediately. As opposed to some other games where the classes look so similar that it's hard to figure out which class is which, who's who. And also because there's a lack of details in here, your eyes also read it really well. Another very subtle detail is that the folds in the clothing actually draw the eye upward towards the weapon.
No way, hold on.
Yes,
Prove it.
I can prove that Valve said it.
And,
Yeah.
wasn't there like a glitch in the original Team Fortress where occasionally players would display the wrong model, which was the inspiration for the spy?
Yeah, that was in the original, I believe, Team Fortress Classic.
Classic. I love how it was called Classic before they made TF2, because they knew they were making TF2, but it took so long to make.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In response to your point about, your question about how I was drawn to weapons, if you can go back a slide. Like, just it's because you're asking like, how is that done? If you look at like, they all have pretty tiny legs compared to the rest of them, and part of that is the art style, but also like, where the weapon is often the most, like, the largest part, so like, the heavy holds his weapon low, so his hands are larger, but like, the sniper doesn't, so his hands are smaller.
Now you mention it,
that.
all the characters' legs are oddly thin. What the hell?
You never noticed that?
What?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it draws your focus to the things that you need to see right there.
Well, now I'm just looking at their legs because.
Interchangeable, you can, if you didn't have the top hat, you probably wouldn't be able to tell them these characters apart. But if you get the important part of each, like the head count or the sniper's face.
But see, now I'm going to be thinking of how like Heavy's legs almost seem thin to the point where they shouldn't support his waist. Like,
Yeah, isn't it a little funny?
I know you got to make these trade-offs. That's a good example, but it's a good design trade-off that you mentioned it.
Yeah, so,
This is a good map. Play this. I don't know.
all right, so he insisted that he wanted to go talk about some Team Fortress 2 memes. So I'm gonna let him do that while I go get a drink of water.
Memes. All right.
Man.
All right. So some franchises have a lot of memes. We've seen Mario memes. We've seen.
Zelda memes?
Yeah.
That's it.
TF2 has an unusually high concentration of memes. Isn't it? Here we go.
Oh, God.
Okay, okay, so firstly we have the spy crab. Whoever's doing that can do that. Why don't you come up here and do the spy crab while I'm talking? You'll be more entertaining.
Do I have to?
Entertainment.
In front of the,
Just stay there. No, go just here, back over there. Okay, so part of this is the Know Your Meme page for TF2. Now, they have 31 sub-entries, meaning that 31 TF2 memes were so important that they needed their own meme pages. One of them is actually a meme called Pyro Sitting Down. There's also the classic from one of the cartoon shorts that was made to promote the game. It was Meet Pyro's I Feel No Man, but that thing, and it'll like cut to something that is like silly or whatever that scares me. And then we got Hat Fortress 2. The game is notorious for having a lot of hats that you can buy with real money, but they only show up in game. So good. Sometimes, unless they're like mediocre or whatever. And you just get those. The game is obsessive about hats. If you like spending money on free things, hats, you don't get to change the slide yet. We got more memes. Okay, so Nope.avi, which is the engineer, and what happens is in the clip, the engineer shows up to the camera, he looks around, and then his head kind of extends and his neck goes from like this long to like this long, and he goes, nope. And it's weird, and I don't know who made that or why, and that happened. When you can use voice lines in the game, which leads to some hilarious moments, like if you want to tell an engineer to build a health dispenser so you can get health and ammo, the heavy can say, put dispenser here, and it says, put this. People have done this with these things, Team Fortress character voice remixes, where they remix it so that they're saying, heavy takes good shit, or something, and it just goes on and on like that. There's one character who's like built to be a meme, Saxton Hale. He's in the lore of the game, and also in the custom Freak Fortress 2 game mode in versus Saxton Hale mode, where one player is randomly transformed into him. Oh, TF2 meme story. One time I did an online OSHA safety course in between rounds of a TF2 arena game mode. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't that hard. I retained information and stuff from it, like they have tow railing regulations. The announcer who announces rounds like 5 minutes to round ends or whatever. That always happens. There's a D&D character chart kind of peeking out here. There's this meme. Where did that even come from? It's meme madness. I could just bathe in these all day instead of going to class or doing anything. I really like these memes. These mean a lot to me. In fact, if you go to the next slide, I'll be talking even more about Gary's Mod and Source Filmmaker, which I didn't see any slides for earlier, so I made this one. So in the tradition of Valve doing things to help its fans create stuff related to their games, they let a third-party developer, Gary Newman, he made this thing called Gary's Mod, and Valve was like, hey, let's just sell this and have people make stuff. So they made videos and that people could use. You could do comedy videos and stuff. And then later on, Valve themselves made Source Filmmaker, which is a 3D animation program that's actually quite good, except for the part that it's entirely attached to the Source engine, so I don't think you can use it for any other thing. Like I don't think they're gonna use Cycles rendering or whatever for this of them. But it's really good and high quality. I don't know if you left this in, but I thought on the next slide there would be a shameless plug for, yes, one of my old Source Filmmaker animations. How fast? 30 seconds, 40 seconds. This was a Christmas animation I made. He's coming to him.
The outcome was never really done.
You can stop it now. It's fine.
Thank you.
My point is, I'm really passionate about TF2 memes, videos, etc. Oh, yeah, also one of the top viewed machinima of all time was in TF2 and Gary's mod. It was made by Kitty0706, a legendary YouTuber who died of leukemia at age 20. Next slide, please.
All right, so
Portal. Why are you skipping to Portal 2? What?
I just need a logo. I'm gonna talk at both at once.
Okay.
But here's the trailer. Back when Valve started making good trailers.
Great trailer.
Welcome to the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. Let's look at some of the challenges you'll face as a test participant. You may be required to perform simple tasks, such as locating an exit. These simple tasks may be supplemented with insurmountable obstacles. Thanks to the Aperture Science handheld portal device, the impossible is easy. Let's look at a real-world example. Certain objects may be vital to your success. If at first you don't succeed, you fail, and the test will be terminated. When stuck, remember our motto: there's a hole in the sky through which things can fly.
I've never heard from it again.
At the Enrichment Center, we believe that a highly motivated test subject can carry out rather complex tasks while enduring the most intense pain. So in case you don't make it through the testing,
I made this game in like 2 years pretty quickly, mostly using like assets. Most of the time it's just spent getting the game engine to figure out the physics of like how gravity should work when you're going through a
this
portal
next
that's at a
test
different
is
orientation.
impossible.
Crazy.
Now you're thinking with portals.
Oh yeah.
2006.
This was the thing.
And of course, there's the Flash version of Newgrounds.
So what is Portal? It's a series of puzzle games. The goal is to get to the end of the level, but that would be impossible if not for the Portal gun. Yeah.
Yeah, you shoot holes in space-time, but it's not a time travel portal. You shoot a hole and then you shoot another hole in another place and you go through the first hole and then you come out of the other hole. So it's basically teleportation.
So meanwhile, the menacing AI GLaDOS taunts you as you go.
GLaDOS is short for glad, add, us.
Yeah, I know the trivia, genetic life form in this operating system.
Yeah.
It's short for glad, add.
So this is so this is how Portal works. The whole game is essentially a tutorial to the last level, because it keeps introducing new mechanics and new ways of thinking about portals in isolation. So basically, it's introducing the idea of put cube on button, and that's the first thing they teach you, and it's all by itself. No way to get confused. Nothing else you can do. And then they elaborate on it to make sure you fully understand. Oh, no, really, put cube on button. Good things happen when you put cubes on buttons. And then once the mechanics are taught, they start combining them with other mechanics or creating more complex challenges out of them. But they do so in such a way that the player is always prepared. There's a natural ramping up of the challenge of complexity as it goes. That's why when we say that the whole game is a tutorial, that's because the whole game is teaching you as it goes. So this means that and since the whole game is a tutorial, there isn't a specific inorganic, weird tutorial section.
It's all mixed in. It's really good at that.
All right. As for the setting of Portal,
Oh yeah, you're in a lab, like Black Mesa, but it's above ground this time. Sometimes it's really there's a lot of panels. So that's about all you need to know, actually, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's called Aperture Science, which is also a fun name of a thing.
And the scientists invented the portal gun apparently sometime in the 1960s. Yeah, apparently Black Mesa was far behind Aperture Science the whole time.
Well, to be fair, Aperture only opened portals within our dimension, whereas Black Mesa was busy opening portals to other.
No, that was another planet, dude. They were 3D creatures. Or wait, were they another dimension? Wait. Was it another? Wait,
It was another dimension.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Another dimension in the sci-fi sense, not how dimensions actually work.
But you see, you're just fighting hypercubes the whole time, like, oh no, I can't see my enemy now.
Yeah.
Oh, there they. Oh wait, they disappeared into the fourth dimension.
Universe.
Maybe.
There's actually a game where you kind of do that. It has a long Japanese name. Look up like Hypercube video game. Yeah, it just has like spheres and cubes and stuff that kind of disappear and reappear because they're moving like 3D, 2D plane. It's like if a sphere moves through a sheet of paper, it looks like a circle expanding and then contracting again. So it's just that above the third dimension. It's crazy. There's great YouTube videos of it.
All right, so monitoring the facility is the genetic life form and disk operating system, GLaDOS.
Glad.
I love the idea that they make a super powerful AI and all it is a disk operating system.
It's on disk, dude.
And at the start of the portal game, there are no human observers. There are messages left behind by other people who went down the testing track, but they don't seem terribly upbeat, to be quite completely honest. I don't think many of the people who are in the test chambers want to be in the test chambers.
I just realized some of that graffiti might have been influenced by some of the emo aesthetic from that time period when the game was made. Yeah, 2006 and stuff.
All right.
I don't know. That's what I'm getting from the red hearts and the writing and possibly blood.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth, like, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but like on a first playthrough of Portal, it doesn't really hit you until around like chamber 16 or so, give or take.
You mean this chamber?
I mean, that is 17, but yes.
You actually remember the numbers?
No idea how many hours. But like that's when it the game really starts kicking you over the head with you are quite possibly the only living thing in this entire massive facility. Like early on, you're just like, oh sure, there's like windows with offices. Sure, this gotta be like someone monitoring this test, right?
Aren't there like silhouettes of people in the game or something?
No.
Oh no.
No actual.
There's silhouettes of chairs where people would be sitting down.
Yeah, there's no actual human presence, but there are things that imply that humans might be here, and it's not until later that like the atmosphere makes you feel more and more isolated, which you don't quite get on repeat playthroughs if you know it's coming. All right.
So back when I was a teaching assistant on the level design class here, I would grade tons of Portal 2 levels made by students here at RET. And it almost gets to the point where I almost, but not quite, stopped enjoying it. But it's amazing that despite me having to look through like 20 in a year, and have to give them all grades and play them over and over again, that I still love this game. Like anyone here in GDD by any chance? Take the level design class when you get the chance.
I actually played Portal 2 co-op with a friend a few years ago. It's a pain in the ass because you actually have to trust the other player. Like it's not just like TF2 where you can both be screwed around, whatever. Because like one of you has to like stand on a button and then the other person has to fire a portal and throw something and it's like, well, it's really easy to just betray them. It's like Prisoner's Dilemma, but like a real game.
So another game they made was Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead
So
2.
what is Left 4 Dead? A co-op game about walking from point A to point B, where everything is fine and nothing goes wrong.
Except for a few details.
Like the zombies.
Just a minor implementation. You'll figure it out, you know.
So the zombies are fast zombies. And they climb stuff, they climb up storm gates, they're somehow
gymnasts.
more athletic and they're gymnasts.
They're just normal people, but suddenly they're gymnasts from getting sick. That's barely even a sickness. How do we know it wasn't just like the steroids?
I'm still trying to figure out why they can survive greater falls than I can. Like, sickness doesn't usually make people tougher than me.
You have the right sicknesses.
No, wait, what if they all got sick, but then they all took steroids to compensate, but then they like went too far the other way? Dude, wait,
Like, the idea
is this
is,
lore?
the idea is that since they no longer feel or care about pain, or will ignore the pain, they'll push themselves harder than a human would.
It's not roids.
That's the charge of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the charger is just like that, but more obvious.
So some of
Oh,
these
yeah, they have
zombies
bosses.
are special zombies with special abilities.
There's Hulk, the guy from Mr. Robot, that guy. Did you forget the witch, or was she in?
It didn't
Or was
fit.
she in Left 4 Dead 2? Or?
She
What
should
is
be
that
here. That's the smoker.
Oh yeah, he has the giant tongue like the things from Half-Life where they have the barnacles. It's all fitting together. It's lore.
The whole point of these is to try to separate tight-knit groups of survivors. The tank will punch a survivor out of the group. The hunter will knock someone out of the group. The boomer will distract everyone and blind them. And the smoker will grab someone with their long tongue and drag them out of the group. It's disgusting as it sounds.
Yes.
So, the setting is meant to evoke classic zombie movies. And there's a lot of world building to be sure, but I don't think it's really supposed to be, like, it's supposed to be a pastiche rather than a place you're really supposed to care all about on its own.
Although they have a lot of environmental detail. I don't know, I just noticed how much detail there was in some of the Left 4 Dead 2 maps I played.
Yeah.
It's like 70% of the map is just like trash cans and things you can't go into, but it sets the atmosphere because then zombies can also hop out of it, and they can do so without warning, as you'll get to it if you're sliding, so it's not that sliding.
Another impressive thing is that the 4 survivors of each game, so each group of 4, each member has their own character, their own voice actor, and their own recognizable personality. And there's a whole conversation system that plays compelling and fitting conversation for whatever point they're in.
Feels you. They also have
Maybe not compelling all the time, but still conversation that makes some level of sense.
I just realized we could make this entire presentation explaining the games just through the memes that came from them.
Mm-hmm. But here's something that I found the most interesting about Left 4 Dead, and that is the AI director.
This thing is amazing.
So the idea of the AI director is that some players his goal is, well, its goal as an AI is to monitor the players and make sure that they're never having too good a time or too bad a time.
Basically, it's like if most game AI is the computer controlling the enemies, this game is the AI controlling as much as possible. Like, it controls the pacing. If it detects that it's been giving you a tough time lately, it'll give you time to breathe. It'll give you you'll have more health drops this time around. If you're getting a bit too high on health and ammo, it'll send the Hulk guy after you and then make bad stuff happen. I think sometimes in Left 4 Dead 2, it changes the lighting. It can change part of the level geometry even. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that based on, like, okay, now this time, what if there was a corner next, and what if something was around the corner? And it can just control all these things, and it's super cool, but you can imagine it had to be well tested and calibrated. I just love this thing.
Yeah.
This thing is really cool.
And it also makes sure that no 2 runs are exactly the same. The zombies spawn at different parts, special zombies spawn at different times.
Different crowds of different zombies happen sometimes.
Which is important because you're supposed to be able to replay these games over and over again with friends, with people at different skill levels.
Also, the soundtrack for Left 4 Dead is kind of underrated. It's this, like, I don't know, it's kind of like Southern country, but it's like...
That's Left 4 Dead 2?
Horror, yeah.
Yes. So, now I'm going to discuss Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and I mentioned being TA for the level design class. Well, before that, I was a student in that class, and I made a Counter-Strike Global Offensive level. And when I was there, I researched some of the design elements. So Counter-Strike works as an esports, and it works as that because there's a high skill ceiling. That's to say, the difference between a person who is really skilled at the game, playing at a very high level, and the difference between someone who's newer or less skilled at the game is really large, the difference between them. So it punishes players for not being tactical, not thinking through their actions, not being smart in the way they act. It does this by constraining resources. There's a cache mechanic where you have to buy all your weapons. There are no respawns in the main destruction mode, and you could easily die in a single hit of weapons, so there's a short time to kill. And the level design is very tight, so there's very few places to actually hide.
Like if you play a round of Counter-Strike, like if you're really getting rolled, it could, I think of the older Counter-Strike games, but it would take like 20 seconds in some of those. I think for global offensive, it's longer now, I think. Sometimes.
In global offensive, like I usually see people, the time, well, at least the time I start getting damage, the time I die is usually like 3 seconds.
Yeah, so it's like ready, go. As some people are buying weapons and stuff. You go in and it's like, right, what was that? You're dead. Wait until next round, which is 5 seconds later because everyone else is gonna be dead in 5 seconds.
Right. And something I learned in my research was the 4-square layout. That is sort of an idea of sort of what I call the generic or Dust 2 layout of level design. Essentially, it divides the levels into 4 squares, or essentially 3 paths and 2 paths connecting the 2 paths, and 2 paths that are connecting the 3 main paths. Where the terrorists start at one end, the CTs start at the other end, and the 2 bomb sites that they have to fight over are closest to the CTs and the Ts.
I think a while back I had the idea to like make a map for like TF2 or Counter-Strike, but I don't think I ever got off paper because making maps in the engine's rather difficult.
I assure you, it was a lot easier than a lot of the alternatives back in the day. Back when I first started learning them.
I wasn't making a level back in the day. I tried it in like 2014 or something.
Okay. So here you see the T start here, the CT start on top, and because team sizes are limited, the CTs will have to divide their forces in order to cover both bomb sites, but the Ts get focused in on a single bomb site.
Wait, did you say what a CT and a T are?
Oh, sorry. CT is a counter-terrorist and T is terrorist.
Terrorists?
I sort of adapted this off a presentation I gave for the level design class, so I just sort of assumed.
You don't tell them that. You just let them think you did the original work.
I did the original work.
Okay, you let them think you did it anew. Yeah, terrorists and counter-terrorists are.
Yeah. Anyways, since the Ts can focus on one bomb site where the CTs have to cover both, this means that the Ts will often win the fight over a single bomb site, resulting in a sort of a turn of the tables where the CTs have to be on the offensive to go attack the bomb site they couldn't defend, and the terrorists have to be on the defensive in order to protect the bomb. And this basically just creates a very dramatic structure for making a tactical game. I won't go into too much detail, but I did in the level design class.
All right, weapon skins. So basically, didn't Counter CS:GO kind of pioneer this almost?
Yeah.
Yeah, they pioneered the thing where it's like, okay, well, you need the weapons for the gameplay, but what if we sold you the same weapon, but it looks really good, in my opinion, or really, whatever.
Or really loud or really obnoxious.
Yeah. So they have these skins, and you get them from things like loot boxes. Valve has a lot of fans, but try reminding them that they helped invent or popularize loot boxes. So it's like, you get a crate, randomize, what's inside. It could be something really good, or it could be the 10th, crap SMG I have now.
And by that, I mean it is never something good. You will always roll low. And if you want something, you should buy from other players. That's the twist that Valve provides in their multiplayer games.
That's actually kind of the thing with...
If a player unlocks something, they can put it up on a digital marketplace run by Valve, where you can just buy it, and the original person who got the weapon will actually make some amount of money from that.
If you get something good, which you usually don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an addiction thing, actually. It actually helps them that most of the weapons aren't good, because one, good weapons are partly highly paid because they're rare. And two, there's this thing in psychology, it's like variable reward. Basically, if you're rewarded every time, you get lazy, but if you're not rewarded every time, then you go crazy trying to buy keys and open loot boxes. And it's like who knows? Maybe this is the last good one ever. I gotta get in or something.
The best move is not to play, and if you want something, you just pay for it directly instead of using the loot box.
See, also Team Fortress 2. I assume Dota 2.
Yeah. But
every-
because you can buy something directly through trading or just outright purchasing from other people, you usually do have an option to go get some rare weapon if you want. So you don't have to engage in loot boxes if you don't have to.
So no.
If you don't want to. So don't. And I remember one time someone asked me to go buy them loot boxes for their birthday, and I feel like I just bought like a 12-year-old lottery tickets, and now I got them addicted to the lottery, and it's my fault if I didn't buy the lottery tickets for their birthday that one time.
Yeah, don't do that. Those things are like statistically the expected value is you lose like $1.50 every time.
He got a knife and he made $200.
Oh, a ticket in the game. Well, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Just give them the knife.
I didn't know it would be a knife.
Whatever.
So Dota 2 is a fantasy game, so we're gonna go run through it quickly. But an online multiplayer battle arena thing that is meant for esports. The entire infrastructure, every element of the game is first and foremost, how can we make this work better as an esport?
And to this day, it has like the largest prize pot for any esport. As this tournament called the International.
In America.
Oh,
I've seen China have bigger prize pools.
okay. It's called the International, and it has promotional items. It rents out a big ass stadium, and the prize pool's like 10 million the entire US dollars.
All right. So I've heard described as a team work together trying to pilot a car where everyone has a hand on the wheel, and if they all make a single mistake, they all die.
And you have to, it's like World of Warcraft where you have to like look at 70 things going on at once and click into just the right place to make stuff happen.
I've tried, but I can't comprehend this game.
Same.
There are this many heroes with this many abilities and this many items.
In TF2, it's 9 people with like 27, with like more items than this and more abilities than
And
this.
even if TF2, if I encountered an item I've never seen before, I still have a pretty good idea what I'm supposed to do based on the class. These are just like so radically different from each other. Yeah.
So I would say if you're trying to learn Dota, don't try to learn all of Dota at once. Like,
Where do you start?
look up like which of the heroes are like they're if you were talking about the TF2 wiki, like
I'll just look up which hero requires me to hate
about
these.
Dota and the meta and like which heroes are good to start with.
I don't have time for that.
I'll look up like which hero is most like the edgy. Where do I have to hate
Something
the
that's
least?
gonna start with this hero. These are the items you should buy. Ignore all other items, and that's a decent way to get started.
Okay.
There are also like guides on Steam that give you like item suggestions for the hero you're playing, like in the game.
Yeah.
So you can tell we're kind of maybe a little racist against Dota 2, I
What?
guess.
I'm gonna use that word.
Okay, we gave it a few slides though.
Yeah.
It's
So-
an important part of Valve. I mean, it's
And-
one of their biggest money-making franchises, and a lot of people play it and actually know how to play it. So they're better than us at that, that's for sure.
All right. So another thing Valve made that was really important, but isn't a game itself, is Steam. It was one of the first digital distribution services for games, and because of that, they sort of had a first mover advantage. And the reason they were able to move first was that a lot of the other publishers who might have created such a service were afraid that if they would, that retailers would see them as going behind their back. So Walmart was essentially preventing Steam from being developed in the first place. So when Valve made the first move, they struck gold. And because digital distribution is cheaper than regular distribution, indie game developers can make games and distribute them to a large marketplace without having to deal with the cost of producing discs or manuals or any non-digital product. So this enabled the indie game revolution. Like nowadays, people like to talk about all the problems that Steam has, and Steam does have problems. But Steam was really important back in its day, and really helped make the industry what it was today.
It also made Game Ben ridiculously rich because the cost to make one more copy of a digital game is like $0-ish.
All right, do we have
and you sell it for like
time for this?
$20. So like,
What's our time?
You have 6 minutes.
All right. I think I'll have to skip this then. But just know there was a time Valve had to that Valve employee became the Greek finance minister.
He wrote an economics textbook that I started trying to read, but I didn't like it, so I gave up reading it after like 11 pages because it wasn't well written and didn't have the info I wanted.
All right, and Valve has also precipitated the VR revolution with their work on the HTC Vive. I've played a lot of their VR games, and I've used the HTC Vive to make VR experiences. I interned as a VR developer once with the help of some of Valve's technology.
Pretty cool.
All right, and to talk about their future games.
They're making a card game based on Dota, eh? Next slide, please. Sorry.
And there's also, through acquisition, they acquired Campo Santo, the people who made Firewatch, which is a game I really liked. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I like it.
There's a good TF2 map called Firewatch based on them. Anyways.
All right, so
Let's not.
yeah, let's
We
get
don't have a lot of time.
but essentially, this was an acquisition, but it's what could be described as a walking simulator. And Valve actually helped create the genre of walking simulators. A lot of mods made using Valve's tech, like the Stanley Parable and Dear Esther, helped sort of create the genre of the walking simulator.
The interactive atmospheric experience. I like John Holm, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, are you surprised that the plot of Half-Life 2 is, the story of Half-Life 2 is they lose the plot and then you have to go walking until you find the next bit of the plot.
Yeah, I feel like there's a.
What?
You can't tell a game based on that unless the walking part is fun.
Yeah, or the storytelling is fun.
Is walking simulator the official term
No,
now?
it's not. There isn't really an official term, but everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say walking simulator.
I call
A game
it
with-
an interactive experience with atmospheric quality.
That's probably a better way of putting it. It's a game where it doesn't
Yeah.
have traditional gameplay as in ways to die, enemies to fight, platform, or what else. And instead just focuses on exploring an environment with environmental storytelling and just like basically paying attention to the text of the game and the subtext of the game instead of the gameplay of the game.
It's a hella genre, it's fun.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, I understand, but I like a good walking sim now and then. And that's the last of our slides.
Still shorter
Slide
than
100.
Matrix. The Matrix is 2.5 hours long, and this presentation was still shorter than it. That's a phrase
Yeah.
I use for like things like movies and stuff, where it's like, that felt like a long time. It's like, well, actually, no, it was shorter than The Matrix, because that's 2 hours, 37 minutes, I think.
So now that we're at the end, like I said, Valve was very inspirational for me because it was using their tool set that sort of enabled me to start making my own games. And that was what encouraged me to join the GDD major and try to become a game developer. Does anyone else have any Valve stories they'd like to share?
Personal experiences with the TF2 meet, that yes.
I think a lot of my personal experiences with Valve games happen to be like, I did a lot of those games with my friends, like Portal 2 co-op. Forget 2, it's really fun for me to have mods. TF2 is just like the craziest fun time when you're all doing the same thing. Like, find a person on the team, gather around and learn the same cosmetics, kill mine at the same time, and be confused as to what is happening.
A friend and I did something called Dual Spy Mayhem, where we were both spies at once, but we didn't know how to, we couldn't exploit the strategic possibilities of it because we're both quite bad at the game. So yeah, Valve, they were so good at attention to detail and stuff that they moved gaming forward into the future over time into the future. They went in depth on the details, and so did we in our presentation. In your present, yeah. And you did most of the work though, yeah.
You did plenty.
I made comments after you read the slides.
But when did Portal 2 come out? 'Cause that was the last game they were.
I don't know, 2011, I think.
It's been a while
Yeah.
since you made it, yeah.
I think it was 2011.
Yeah, I think it was 2011. I graded plenty Portal 2 levels.
No, this wouldn't have happened without you.
Yeah. I remember that Portal 2 level was part of my resume, a part of my application to the school, showing, hey, look, I made a Portal 2 level.
I made a Python to-do list thing that was part of my resume to get here.
Back when Valve released games frequently enough that this could happen, I was working on a Portal map pack, and then they announced like mechanics for what would become Portal 2, and I tried to work those in, And then Portal 2 came out, and I was like, based on that article, I completely misjudged how these mechanics would work.
What did you think the lasers were gonna do?
I thought they were going to kill you, and they don't. You have to actively try to get killed by a laser in Portal 2, but mine just murdered you.
All right, it is now
In both cases. you
9.
step into the-
It is now 9 o'clock, so I think we have to put this to a
Get
close
out of here,
now.
and see it.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Before you go,
Peace.
there are some announcements.
Yeah, super short. Again, Nerdocalypse is happening the 6th. That should be a lot of fun this Saturday. If you want to volunteer, there's a form on the general Slack that I advise you jumping on. It's a lot easier than it sounds. We'll help guide you through, and I suggest it. And guys, thanks again for coming. We really appreciate it.
So don't forget to buy memberships and t-shirts right here.
Over there.
Thank
Be
you.
sure to
Thank you.
support us during Memorial Day tomorrow. If you do, you might get a prize to say.
Yes.
Good job.
I
Michael.
love all of the.
Yeah.
This is great because despite the fact that it's a really old game at this point, it's still full of glitches that I don't get.
I feel like I want to do a mission in the future, but I want to do it myself. And do
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
When you said rapid fire slides, I meant like literally in between each word you click. Like what I.
All right, there's a limit. Like 100 slides, including the animation, it's collected.
I noticed on some of those slides we talked for 3 minutes, and I was thinking, wait a minute, 3 minute slides times 100 slides is almost